This man needs no introduction. It's Ken Climo, 12-time world champion, greatest of all time, my good friend, and man, we're so happy to have you on here.
I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I was telling Yuli that, before you came on, I've had the pleasure of interviewing and talking to a lot of people throughout my career, and it's been a long time since I've actually felt like nervous to meet or talk to someone. And so it felt good to kind of have the butterflies, because I've heard so many stories, and your name, obviously, one of the first discs I ever got was actually from Avery Jenkins, and it was a 10-time AVR. And that's what I was putting with when I first started playing disc golf. I was putting with that, and then I had like one of his destroyers or something. And I feel like I'm just saying it's an honor to actually get to finally get a chance to talk to you. I have crazy amount of questions for you, so please let me know when I've talk your ear off and you're done talking with me. Let me know. But I know our people listening are very excited for this interview as well. A lot of people have been saying that they're looking forward to this one. So without further ado, I guess the first question I have is, you did decide to come on this. I think a lot of that has to obviously do with Yuli, your connection with Yuli. What would you say is like the main reason why you have maybe not done as many interviews, or because I'm sure tons of people would love the opportunity of talking with you. What's kind of the reason for you to kind of handpick or, come on the scene every once in a while?
I don't know. I'm just not that tech savvy. Kind of
Gotcha.
Living my own life, doing family things nowadays, basically, is probably the reason.
Okay. I mean, that me and Yuli will tell you right now, we're not very tech savvy either. This, you came at the right time, because this podcast was an absolute disaster a couple episodes ago. So, okay. I just kind of want to know too, what got you into disc golf? What was like the start? What jumped you into it, I guess?
Well, I had played ball golf since I was 7 years old, played for my high school team, loved the game of golf, still love the game of golf. But I used to hang out with some friends of mine that lived in this neighborhood, kind of where the course went in. And I didn't know it went in there. And my brother mentioned something to me about, hey, do you know there's a Frisbee golf course over in this park that's near the neighborhood that my buddies live in? And I was like, no, Frisbee golf, what's that? I've never heard of that. Went out there and tried to, locate what he was talking about, and didn't really see anything that looked like golf. Basically, there was no baskets. It was just wooden posts with red paint on the top.
Wow.
So you had to hit the red paint part. And so that's why I didn't really notice anything, because I just saw some just some posts sticking out of the ground. I have no idea what it was, but ended up going back there and realizing that those posts were the disc golf course. And I didn't even know what a basket looked like at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd never even heard. That was in 1987.
Was that fairly common at the time? Like most courses had posts, or was that more like just like a local course type of thing?
That was a local course type of thing, because most courses I went to after that point, had baskets. But in the beginning, I think a lot of courses did start out with an object before they were able to get baskets. So
did you not have any? Did you not have any like prior Frisbee, like tossing it on the beach or anything like that? Did you mess around with the Frisbee at all, or were you strictly golf and then just got into disc golf itself?
Oh, that's one of the unique coincidences. Is I used to throw Frisbee in that park with my buddies before I ever heard about disc golf. And yeah, I played beach Frisbee, hucked a lid around a ton, did some freestyle. We'd get with your buddy and throw your lid, and you try and back him up, he'd try and back you up, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I had probably thrown over 100,000, throws with a Frisbee before I ever heard about disc golf. Definitely lots and lots of throws.
Did you dabble ever into ultimate Frisbee? Other than
I never did play any formal ultimate games. We did some pickup games here and there at the course I played at, but never anything formal where there was referees and all that stuff.
I feel like you would have been a very formidable force in ultimate Frisbee. I mean, I don't know exactly how tall you are, but from the videos and stuff I've seen, it does seem like you tower over your opposition. So I feel like you with your throwing background and your height, you would have been a a pretty good ultimate Frisbee player.
Yeah, I got pretty good hands. I catch pretty good. I ran and jumped pretty good back in the day. I probably would have been fairly decent at the game.
You probably picked the more financially beneficial career path, though, in disc golf. There still is not very much money in ultimate Frisbee, even to this day.
I am seeing it posted all over Facebook. I got the AUDL. I see that on Facebook all the time. They're definitely getting a little bit more of a presence out there for sure.
Yeah.
And they look a little bit more professional than they used to. They're in bigger stadiums and they have some crowds and their uniforms are snazzy and whatnot.
Yeah, they're getting up there for sure. There's some things that are obviously causing some issues with it kind of growing and breaking through a little bit. Okay, but back to you. Another question I had, did you have any other athletic background? Were there other sports that you played growing up, or was it strictly just golf was what you played mostly?
I did a lot of stuff as a child. Yeah, I played baseball for umpteen years, little league and whatnot, and kind of didn't really play for my high school. That's kind of where my baseball career ended. I didn't even try. I probably could have, but I ran track. I played volleyball in middle school, played a little bit of Pee Wee League football, raced bicycles, BMX. I did quite a few things athletically for sure.
Do you feel like, because I know your first event, like your first official event, you ended up winning. Do you feel like being successful early on kind of drove you into wanting to continue to get better and better at disc golf? Like, had you played your first event and you got dead last and you're like, I'm absolutely terrible at this, do you think that would have changed your trajectory on like your career in disc golf?
No, I don't think so at all. Anyway, that first event was an amateur event, so I wasn't really playing against the best of competition in that event anyway. But no, I was so hooked with the sport before I ever played any kind of event that I was going to play and get better no matter what.
So your first event was an amateur event?
Yeah, I think I only played 2 amateur events in my whole life. Went pro after my second amateur event.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so what if you took those scores and then put them in the pro field, or was it just strictly an am event? Would you have actually played pretty good?
One of them was an amateur event. I'm not sure about the other one. Can't really recall right now, but I just knew how my game was progressing at that point.
Yeah.
I played for like 4, 5, 6 months before I ever got into any one event, because there wasn't really that many events back in the day. I mean,
Okay.
it was a handful per year in my state, basically. There wasn't much going on in 1987.
Well, I was born in 1987, so there was a lot going on. You know what I'm saying?
Disc golf.
Okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha. What is your favorite disc golf memory? Because I did see a clip of you doing some tricks at Pinehurst, which I thought was dope, because Pinehurst is like one of my favorite golf complexes I've ever gone to. And you were playing like right on that huge, I don't know if you remember this, but you were like skipping the Frisbee into
into a chair,
into a chair,
freestyle moves,
right on that massive putting green where you can just like, right
in front of the clubhouse.
Yeah. So do you have any other?
They let us throw some discs out there on the course too, and we're out there filming us and made a little montage. That's probably what you saw, was the Jack Nicklaus of disc golf. That montage.
Oh, is that what it was? So did they invited you out there to kind of do like a little piece on you?
Well, I had friends get me out there on the course, and those friends told the higher ups at Pinehurst that me and Barry were going to be there. So they sent their own cameraman out there to kind of follow us and shoot some stuff of us while we're on the course. Wow. We threw some discs on a par 3. It was like 170 yards, threw one pin high, like 510 feet. And then we crushed a couple down a fairway, big par 5, just let them rip, big flex shots, across the lake going out there. And that was really neat. I actually hit a mini with a 3-wood and made it fly like you throw it.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's actually sick.
That was part of it.
Any other things like opportunities and stuff that you've been able to do kind of like that over the years that you've really enjoyed?
A few here and there, not that many. One of my most cherished memories of just doing something with disc, but it's not actually playing or competing in a disc golf tournament, is we went to an overlook on the Blue Ridge Parkway when we were at the Laurel Springs Open back in the 80s, and we were hucking discs, and there you'd have the big crowd kind of giving you the A-OK or not right as soon as you released it. Oh no, it's no good. Oh yeah, that was good. So I take out this beat up Cobra and throw it with like 90 degrees hyzer down the mountain. Everybody's like, no, it's too much hyzer. And it just slowly flipped and slowly flipped and slowly flipped over, rode for about 30 seconds on the flip, came back, picked up speed as it went downhill, flipped over again, and rode for another 25 seconds. This thing flew for a minute before we lost sight of it. And that's a pretty awesome memory, just in non-tournament stuff.
Yeah. Anything tournament wise jump out at you of just like stuff that you're just like, when that happened, that's something that's going to be cemented in like my memory forever?
Well, I think winning my first world championships was pretty special. It was 9 lead changes with 3 different leaders throughout the final 18 holes. And I was able to throw a Cobra on the second to last hole, like 470 feet right under the basket.
What is a Cobra? I've never heard of that one.
It is a stingray with a bead, or a slightly
It's like
faster
almost
rock.
a mid-range is what it is.
Oh, really?
It's like shaped. It's like kind of a deeper rim than the drivers will see now, and it's like a more of a blunt edge, right? I know
it's
that
a little sharper than a rock, I would say.
Right.
Just a slightly bit faster than a rock, but very
And that
similar.
was like your go-to disc off the tee?
Oh yeah, for quite a few years until the Viper came out.
Oh, okay.
And that was in Scottsdale, right?
That was in Scottsdale. That was at Vista del Camino.
Yep, because I know the spot. And when I was first coming up in Scottsdale, people would take me to the spot and be like, this is the spot where he threw like 500 foot with a Cobra. And we weren't getting that far with the disc that we had. And I'm like, there ain't no way he threw that with a Cobra. It's deep. It's deep.
It was, had some adrenaline, I think, going on there. Because I wasn't usually throwing like 475 with the Cobras. 425 maybe, but 475 was a little out there. But the air's a little thinner out there, so it goes a little farther out there than it does here. It's really humid here, and this just don't go as far here in general. Was there
like a increase? I mean, obviously you won your first one, but at what point did you just like think to yourself, I'm never losing one of these, right? After you win so many, was there a moment in time where you're just like, I'm never going to lose? I'm literally just going to beat everyone?
I never thought that I was never going to lose, because I played many other tournaments throughout those besides the Worlds, and would get beat regularly. So I didn't ever think I was never going to lose one, but I figured the Worlds back then was 10 rounds, right? It was 2 rounds a day for 5 days. So it kind of let the cream rise to the top before it was all over. And I knew if I played anywhere near my potential, that I would be in the hunt. Basically that's all you can do as a golfer, is trying to be in the hunt towards the end of the tournament.
Do you ever feel like you won a tournament just by like showing up, to where the intimidation of just how successful you were as a player? Because I would say like the Tiger effect, if we're looking at golf, there was many times where you would be in a pairing with Tiger at the end of a tournament, and that person would just fall apart. Did you ever see that where someone would have a really good tournament, and then all of a sudden it get down to the final round or whatever, and they're in with you and you're going head to head, and you could just tell that they were not able to play to their best potential just because of the pressure that you brought?
I mean, that pressure is self-induced, so that would have to be on the competitors, and they would have to be able to answer that. I wasn't putting any pressure on anybody myself. Maybe, they self-induced the pressure. But I think that happened to me in 1989 a little bit, because I played really good in my first World Championships. No one knew who I was. Me and C.R. Willie played the doubles. We won the doubles, and John A. Hart and Steve Valencia come up to us and like, who the hell are you guys? We've never heard of you guys. How are you winning the doubles at the World Championship? Then I went on to play really great that week, was in the lead group the whole time, was 1 stroke out of the lead going to the last day, and didn't play my best golf the last day. Maybe a little nerves got to me. It was my first time on the big stage, and ended up 5th, I think, tied with R.J. Jerez. That was the one Steve Weiskopf won in 1989.
So were you kind of a student of the game as you were coming up? Like, you knew of who the top players were and stuff as you were getting into it?
The more I got involved, the more I got into the history of it, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, nice. Here's the facts, Kenny. If you stepped out on a at the World Championships right now, and you were on any card, they're going to be intimidated. And yes, it's probably is self-induced, but that's what you do to people. That's what the greats do. If they're on the card, you're just like, oh my gosh, King Climo was about to watch me throw this. Like.
I would say that and the crowds. I'm sure if you showed up to play an event I'm sure the crowds would be there, the cameras would be there, and now all of a sudden I'm just showing up thinking I'm just gonna have a normal round, and all of a sudden I have 200, 400 people watching me. It is intimidating, I'm sure, for some players.
I've definitely watched some people crumble, for sure, but I don't know if it was because of the intense moment, because they were in the battle in the final round with 3 or 4 other good players, or however that mattered in their own brain. I can't pick their own brain at that moment to know what crumbled them, but yeah, I've definitely seen some crumbling going on.
Well, I guess like just watching like the Michael Jordan documentary, and then hearing the competitors like talk about him, you know what I mean? And the way that like you see podcasts nowadays on like YouTube, and you hear about like those old players talk about Michael Jordan, and they all say the same thing. They're just like, if Michael Jordan was there, like it was just over type thing.
Right, for sure. Well, that's a different kind of sport. You're kind of more hand-to-hand combat in those kind of sports, rather than we're kind of more of a passive thing against each other.
No, we're pumping you up here, Kenny. I'm telling you, it's a real thing. Those guys crumbled because of you. I'm giving you the credit.
Did you have it? Oh, go ahead.
It's one thing that I never experienced myself.
Sure.
Like, I didn't go up against, like, I didn't get into a group with someone and go, oh my gosh, it's Steve Weiscup, or oh my gosh, it's Dave Greenwell. Or that feeling never came across me. I just felt like if I played my game against the course, because golf is you against the course, it's not you against the other person. You have to beat the course. If you can't beat the course, you're never going to beat the other player.
So you might have just answered my question, but I am curious. Did you ever just show up to a tournament to be like, all right, I'm just here to kind of have fun. This is a fun tournament. And then someone did something during the round where you were just like, oh, you want me to actually play? Okay. And then you just like turned it on kind of thing. Because again, there isn't that, like you were saying in basketball, you can have that 1v1 where you make a shot on someone and maybe you taunt them a little bit, and then you're just like, okay, it's on. There's not really that in disc golf, but was there ever a tournament like that where you were just like, I'm just here to kind of show up, have a good time, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, you want me to birdie every hole? Okay, here we go.
If I showed up to a tournament, I wasn't there for a good time. I was looking.
Okay. No matter how big of a tournament it was always straight. You're trying to get the championship, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that.
Just like Tiger would say, I'm out there for the V.
Yeah, I like
victory.
that. Okay.
There was a few tournaments I went to that were fun tournaments that weren't, it didn't matter if I won or lost. That weren't like PDGA tournaments. They were just off the books tournaments. And yeah, I played a few of those, but they weren't like real tournaments that didn't count towards my career record or anything like that. Like the disc roast in North Carolina. It was like mandatory that you drink alcohol on every hole or something like that. And there was a ball golf tournament like in the morning, and then disc golf at night. And if they added the scores together, and whatever you shot, ball golf and disc golf were added together. And that was the way the tournament, it was called the 10 Cup Challenge. And yeah, that type of thing I would just go into wanting to have fun.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I do have a question about
but still be competitive as well.
Well, yeah, it like I said, it's one of those, when you have that competitive spirit, it's very difficult to just like go and do something and not care about the result. It's tough to be able to shut that part of your brain off.
It really is.
What was your training like? I'm curious what your training like was on course. So how often did you putt? How often did you go to the field and throw? How many rounds of, when you had a world championship, how soon did you get, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions here. How soon did you get to the world championship course to practice it? And then also, what was your training like off the course? Did you run? Did you lift weights? Was there a nutrition that you were following? How serious were you taking this?
I was taking it pretty seriously, not for any gain of, but for me to get better at the sport. In the beginning, I would probably play about 10 rounds a day. And my course only had 9 holes back then. So it was only 9 baskets. So I would play at least 10 times around these 9 and, just trying repetition. And I would putt at home, inside, controlled environment, no wind, just to get the stroke down, things like that. And, hundreds a day, hundreds of putts a day, easily. And as far as working my body out, I was a carpenter. I framed houses in the beginning of my career. For probably the first 12 years of my disc golf career, I was also a carpenter. So basically, I went to work and It was like going to the gym for 12 hours and getting paid for it.
I was telling Brody, like when it has one of the tournaments you won, you picked up the basket, and I'm like, it looked like a Nerf basket the way you picked it up and just shook it above your head. I'm like, dude, back in the day, Kenny was a monster. There's a couple pictures.
2007. I was 39 at that point when I did that.
And then there's like a couple photos of you playing with your shirt off, and there's no fat on that body.
Still isn't much at 55. I can't believe it. I haven't thickened up a little bit more. I still weigh pretty much what I weighed my whole career, 175 to 180.
Are you still kind of doing the carpentry stuff? And that's kind of, no,
I quit doing that in the late 90s.
You just have a really good metabolism.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have children.
Yeah, they keep you busy, I'm sure. So you're talking about your putting and how you would practice it. One thing I did notice from watching footage of you, your putt is different than a lot of other players. And when I first got into disc golf, I was actually messing around without even knowing about it with a putt kind of similar in the sense of not having this big backswing. We see, a lot of players start the disc in front of their face and they bring it all the way down to their hip. You were kind of more closer to your stomach, I would say. So your backswing was much shorter. Do you feel like that gave you, like, what made you go into that putting style?
I don't know. Kind of putting to me is like individualistic. Each player needs to develop their own style putt. Like you look at Gannon Burr, he takes it down by his side real close on his left side. No one else does that but him. I think you just need to develop your own style, which you can repeat. Whatever you can repeat and be successful repeating, consistent repeating it. And for me, it was basically a weight shift. I'm shifting my weight from back to front. And I want all my energy going through my hand. I had tried to be low-handed, very low-handed putt. My hand was, sometimes 12 inches off the ground as I'd go to, take my backswing, stroke my putt, get down low at the knees, get the putter down low. I thought the lower you got, the more centered you were and the more you could drive through it.
So was this something that you go ahead, Yuli, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so through the innovation of like baskets and stuff, did your putting style stay the same? Like, because early on you guys were putting on like one chain baskets, and then over time, like your last world championship was 2006, the baskets had more chains and everything. Did yours gain velocity, or was it the same stroke through the whole entire process? Because that's one thing that I'm noticing with this generation is the velocity is changing big time. But back in the day, they weren't going to get away with that. On those baskets, they couldn't get out every time.
Not only were there single chains, but the rims were only about this deep instead of like this deep. So once your disc got in there, it could scoop around and go out the back real easy if you didn't have the right speed or the right, angle and touch on it. You wanted to be really close to the rim back in the day, just over the rim, and they had a less chance to come out. The higher you hit, the more it would spread the chains apart and have a chance to deflect off a pole or something and come out. So mine stayed pretty much the same speed and line for my whole career, just because I've always wanted to make it over the nubs by like this much dead center or just a little off to the right for, right-handed spin to catch in.
Probably also like stopped you from having those brutal like skip off the top of the basket misses, right? If you're trying to go just over the basket.
My speed was never too much. Like I didn't three putt very much ever in my career, just because I had good speed. I think if you can control the speed of your disc, you can control the disc much better if you can control the speed. I see a lot of people whizzing it at the basket and paying the price for it these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watch a lot of the coverage, and there's definitely some hard putters.
When it's on, though, it is a thing of beauty. But when it's off, it's a nightmare, I'm sure. All right. If you allow it, I have one selfish question. If you could give me one piece of advice, what would you give me?
Keep doing what you're doing, because you're climbing through the ranks, as I can see, really fast. Like you've come from like a 950 player to a 1025 player in a pretty fast time. I think, just keep doing what you're doing and just don't give away strokes out there. Don't take bogeys.
Yeah, that is brutal. It is. That's my kryptonite. I get a lot of bogeys, unfortunately.
I think today's game, have to kind of go for everything nowadays when you didn't used to. But if there's going to be those couple holes throughout the tournament, throughout courses that they're just risk reward, and if the conditions aren't right for that day, don't risk it.
Yeah, the Open at Austin, there was a hole like that, and in practice, I literally told myself I'm going to lay up and just play this hole for 3, a par, and move on. And then you get in the tournament, and I went for it all 3 days, and I bogeyed it all 3 days, and it was an easy like layup par hole, and it's just like right what you were just saying. I just gave the field 3 strokes for no reason, basically. So
right, I think Calvin lost that tournament because he went for hole 1, kind of. Turned his drive over and went up into the right OB and ended up skipping off the basket and going into the long OB, and he took a 5. And then another hole, a couple holes later, it was like 482 across the green, and he didn't get across the green. That's the one
I'm talking about. That's the hole I'm talking about.
He didn't get across the green. He took 2 5s right there, and he lost the tournament by 3 or 4 strokes, and that's 4 strokes. If you just laid up, it's easy 3. Yeah. Easy 3.
And you're answering a question that I had just in talking right now. I was going to say, how caught up are you with watching tournaments? And I know you watch some, but do you watch every tournament, like the live through
all the live coverage? I pretty much watch these days, but I don't do any post coverage. I've never watched any post coverage. Never have watched any post coverage.
Yep.
Sorry, Yuli.
Oh no,
he didn't watch your commentary.
Hey, the fact that he's watching disc golf still is awesome.
Well, I still play. Heck, I went out to throw down the mountain course, the Grand Canyon, 2 days ago on my birthday, and got to play around out there.
Oh, sick. Birthday round. Oh, yeah. Those are always the fun ones.
There was no one else there. The course was closed that day, and we had Mike Barnett give us the combo to the lock, and we were able to go out there. We were out there for the whole first 9 holes with no one else on the property. It was surreal. It was unbelievable. I've never been there before, just totally alone, just me and Charlie Goodpasture.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome. I ended up shooting 5 down on the gold layout, which they're playing this weekend. Its tournament starts Friday.
Well, there you go.
I gotta watch
the gauntlet down. Throw the gauntlet down.
I missed 5 putts, dead center, high or low by this much too. I could have been 10 down pretty easy.
I want everyone to tweet everyone that doesn't shoot 5 under that they did not beat Ken's score out there. Love that. A question about the disc, because that is something that has changed a lot from when you were playing to winning now. What do you think that has done to the pro game? Do you think it's made disc golf too easy now that there are so many different discs that do different flights and you don't have to manipulate the disc as much?
I don't think, when you're getting up to the upper echelons of pro disc golf, that it's ever easy. No matter what the discs are, it's not going to be easy because it's right here. It's between your heads. That 6-inch mental game between your head. That's how you play well. But as to the shots becoming a little bit easier throughout the years, I think yes, because back in the day, everything we had was basically a -3 turn or more. Like you had to start it out with a ton of hyzer and let it flip. And it was more of a power/finesse game. You had to have some power, but you also had to have quite a bit of finesse to make the disc work. Nowadays, you can get away with more power and a little less finesse. Especially, the sidearms. Back in the day, try throwing a Stingray with a sidearm. Just try it out sometime. Tell me how you do it.
Hey, I throw the Sky Streak sidearm.
I hear you.
I love doing like that, messing around with that. I think we only see that really in scrambling now, like the finessey kind of soft touch angle shots. You really only see those when we have to, we're in the woods and we're having to kind of scramble and throw those lines. You don't really see them that much off the tee.
The woods is a great equalizer in the power finesse game. Yes, I think you got to have way more finesse when you're in the woods. You can't just get away with the brute strength and power because you got to have a little more room to work the disc. With an overstable disc, it's kind of got to do this. An understable disc, they just kind of turn into their line and fly dead straight. And I think they're way better in the woods. I think more people would benefit from using a little less stable disc in the woods. And I still see a lot of people throwing the overstable disc through tight tunnels and just like, why? Use something less stable. It's a lot easier to hit the gap.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have the conversation now, Yuli? Because I'm very curious as to his thoughts on the GOAT conversation. I know you probably get that all the time, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it, because it gets thrown out all over the place on social media. It feels like, it's on Reddit maybe once every month at this point.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the conversation being talked about and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What's your take on it? Where do you stand?
Well, I stand that I have done what I've done, and that's to be passed. If someone's going to, claim GOAT status, I guess they have to pass what I've done. And I hear the amount of majors he's going to pass me here soon. I didn't have but one major a year for the first 11, 12 years of my career. I could only play one major a year. And then after that, I had two majors a year for another, 5 or 6 years. So it was like 15, 16 years where only had one or two majors to play. So I don't think that's a fair comparison in the grand scheme of things. Because if you were to give me 4 or 5 majors a year on all those years, I would probably have 40 by now.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
If you were just to go back and retroactivate these certain tournaments as majors because they were the biggest tournaments, I would have 35, 40 of them.
Gotcha.
So in that regard, I think I'm way ahead, but in the actual sense of it being majors, I'm only one ahead. But as far as the world championships, yes, I've won 12 and he's won 6. So he's halfway there in my mind.
So my question is then, because then we have that, and obviously we're talking about Paul McBeth, but because there weren't as many back in the day, is there a player that we're forgetting that could be in the conversation above McBeth even because there weren't a lot of majors and he was playing well back in the day? Was there anybody like at that caliber, or were you just dominating everybody and they just didn't have a chance?
There was some great players back in the day. I wouldn't take anything from any of those guys. Steve Valencia, I mean, that guy could throw both hands. He was a great player. He just didn't stay in the game that long. And, Scott Stokely, when he was younger, I mean, he outdrove me by 100 feet. I was beating the guy every time. I didn't know how, but amazingness. But I don't think anybody has a say in the GOAT status, but myself and Paul at this point.
Okay.
I mean, that's honestly fair. That's probably the best answer I've ever heard. It's like the only two people I can say anything about are the people actually in the conversation, I guess.
Right.
And then philanthropy wise, he's the GOAT. He's doing things that I never could have done. I just didn't have the monetary, access to do the things he's doing, the foundation and the new course, all that stuff, the new courses he's putting in all over the world. And I think that's great. My hat's off to him. I wish I could have done things like that. I wish I would have been able to, be that person. But I was a father who got divorced, and I had to be home every other weekend to see my son. It was court ordered that I was a visitational parent, got him every other weekend. So that's why I didn't play as many tournaments as I could have probably back in the day. And that's why I didn't get to stay out there on tour. I never really stayed on tour. I went, 3 weeks was probably my longest time from home on any tour, just because I had to come back and be a father.
Is that why I don't know how you retired, so I don't know the story behind that. What led to your retirement from professional disc golf?
Well, I kind of felt this little twinge in my hip one day after playing some ball golf, and then I was supposed to play a tournament that weekend in Clearwater here at home, and my back seized up. I couldn't do anything, and basically I can play disc golf. I can go out and play around, no problem, but I can't really play the next day without it hurting a bunch. And I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying to get that rectified, and no one's been able to help me do anything with that. So I quit spending the money on it. And that's basically where I'm at. I can't play 3, 4, 5 days in a row. I can play one round one day and play just to my potential, but I can't do it multiple days in a row without debilitating myself.
So are you itching? Is there an itch there to where you would just love to be out there playing and still playing tournaments? If there was a fix, hopefully there's a doctor out there listening to this and he might give you a little message. But if there was a fix for King Climo, would you, make a resurgence and want to play more tournaments and get out there?
Deep down, yes. I lived out of a suitcase basically for 30 years besides coming home every other weekend. And that part of it, I was kind of done with.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see my son as much as I wanted to. as he was getting raised. He's 28 now, and now that I've got a daughter, she's 11. I've been able to be in her life consistently, for the last 5-6 years. It's nice. It's been a different change of pace, and I'm glad I'm kind of glad everything happened the way it did, just because I got to be here for the raising of her.
Any thoughts on coaching? Any interest in that?
I mean, I give lessons a little bit here and there, but not really.
More on the pro, nothing on the pro side. Like you wouldn't be interested in helping some potentially down the road some professionals.
I could see myself doing that, yeah, but it would have to be for the right price.
Oh, of course, of course.
I've given so much of myself to the sport throughout the years and received not that much in return. And I seem to keep giving and giving and giving and giving. And there's a few instances I can tell you. I did a how-to video with Dave Feldberg, went out to California, spent many a days out there filming it. And then all of a sudden, right at the end, when it's about to be released, like something happens and it goes kaput. And I never saw a dime from it. I went to do a how-to video with John Sink and the Disc TV guys from back in the day and spent many hours filming all that stuff. And he ended up flaking out, and I don't know what happened. I gave him all these old videos I had of myself playing disc golf way back in the day, and those ended up coming up missing, so I don't have those in my archives. It's just, I just feel like I've been stepped on every time I've tried to help or do something like that, and I just don't feel like I need to put myself out there unless I'm going to be financially rewarded up front, because I've tried to do it many times and was shit on, basically.
And
go ahead, Ely.
Is there could you see yourself maybe being a commentator or in the future doing something with the sport as far as that goes? Because I know how educated you are on the game. I mean, you just went through talking about coverage and what was going on into detail. And so me personally, I couldn't imagine anybody better behind the mic than Ken Climo breaking down shots for the best players in the world. Is that something that you've thought about? Maybe it could be a new resurgence of a career path, or is that something that you like watching and
I definitely could do that, but once again, I think it would entail me having to leave my home and live out of a suitcase to do that. And that's just not what I want to do at this point in my life. I am going to do it for the USDGC, though.
Nice.
This year? Upcoming?
This year.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Heck yeah.
I like that.
That's awesome.
I did it for 2 years in 18 and 19. I did it then, too, for the USDGC.
Yeah, you called my ace on 17, man. I'll never forget it. I get to watch that on my Instagram from time to time when it gets popped up, and Kenny calls my and what I mean by call, he commentates on the ace. Yeah, which is freaking amazing.
Yeah, I aced 17 at the USDGC too 1 year, so
Dang.
Tip of the cap.
Well, that's one of the things when I first came in. 2006 was my first USDGC. And so I would get done early with my rounds, and I'd be able to go watch the lead cards. And I think you won in 2007, correct?
I did.
And so that particular year, I remember going and watching, but the shots that I remember from you were on 17. Like, you were destroying the place. He was shooting like 57, 58, like every round. Like, I believe that was the year that you ran away from everybody. Maybe Brian Schwaber got second.
I think Cam Todd got second the year and had to donate his winnings back because he got some kind of penalty from the PDGA or something.
Whatever it was, I remember watching 17. His disc didn't leave the same spot 4 rounds in a row.
Cleared the hay bales by this much every time.
You were
and landed in the same spot.
Straight backhand bullet, like a straight backhand shot.
Little
right
turnover
at it.
rock shot that hits the ground on a little bit of a turning edge and stops pretty quick because it's on a turnover.
But do you remember that? Do you remember your disc? The way I remember it is it landed in the same spot every round.
Every round. I was aiming at that spot. It was the middle of the green, the farthest away from the OB areas. That's where I wanted to hit. So I kept hitting my mark. I got a little lucky there. That hole can be a bear in the wind, though.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little wind brewing up on that hole, and you better sack up.
And you guys were playing it the same way with the OB re-tee?
Yeah, in that year we were. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what just makes that hole. I think if there's like a 60-foot drop zone putt, if you go OB, I think the pressure of that shot just completely goes away, and I don't think you see that
getting
many
a 2 or
OB
3
shots.
or 4 at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're on your third disc on that tee, your palms start getting pretty sweaty pretty quick because you're also probably not throwing the disc that you're really wanting to throw.
Yeah, I've made a 5 on that hole. Didn't feel so great about it. That's for sure. I had to re-tee twice, 3 times, whatever. Yeah, re-tee.
It happens real quick.
Uh-huh.
All right, so a couple questions I have now relate to kind of some things that we've talked about in the past. I'm curious as what your thoughts are on it. One of those being the dress code in disc golf. Now, watching your coverage, you had the polo tucked into more sometimes golf shorts, but sometimes like athletic shorts. What are your thoughts on proper dress code for the professional level? Like, is there something in mind that you have that we should be wearing, or what are you thinking?
Not really. I think the dry fit shirts are classy enough if they're decent enough looking. I think anything from there above is fine, but I don't think we should be out there in tattered clothes with holes and stuff in them. Obviously, it just makes the sport look less appealing. But a nice dry fit shirt with some good logoing on it and stuff like that, I think is good enough to be the standard. If you want to wear more than that, collar and whatnot, just to make yourself look a little better, that's fine too. But I think you at least need to have like a dry fit shirt on and something that doesn't show like big sweat rings and stuff.
Yeah.
Cotton's tough out there in the heat.
Yeah, I think that's actually not part of the dress code anymore, Yuli. Am I right on that? I think it is dry fit is like the bare minimum.
Yeah, you're not allowed to wear cotton.
Right.
Yeah. It's been interesting to see because there's a big push now for like collared shirts and golf pants and golf shorts.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case when I first came in, but now you're starting to see, that side. And I think with dress code, you're always going to have some people on some side saying we should dress like this, and some people saying no, we need to dress like this. I was just kind of curious where you were at on it.
I have noticed that the tour players do look more professional these days, especially the women. Women tend to get a little more dressed up and a little fancy stuff out there. But yeah, everything looks good on camera these days. I like the way it's looking.
You mentioned in the World Championship, I believe you said, how many rounds did you say was the World Championships normally?
10
rounds. What are your thoughts now on that shifting away and us going to more 4 or 5 round majors?
I think it's it's a little bit better for the tournament staff and whatnot to produce the event for the 4 and 5 rounds. But what made the World Championships was it that it was more rounds, and it did it did take the endurance, stamina, mental fatigue is all a thing when you play more rounds and more days. So I wouldn't mind seeing it be more like an 8-round thing nowadays, 6 to 8 at least. I think 4 rounds is that's a normal golf tournament to me. And yes, the ball golf tournaments are all 4 rounds, and no matter if it's a major or not, they're all 4 rounds. But we had our own special thing going at the Worlds, and I thought that was kind of cool that you had to be physically and mentally, strong to endure the whole week.
See, now I agree with you in the sense that that's what sets the World Championship apart from other tournaments. The other thing that I'm curious, was it also the field? Was the World Championship like the tournament that you knew the best players were all going to be at? Or were there other tournaments throughout the season where you're like this, you look around, you're like, these are all the best players. So, because that to me, that's where it's kind of hard understanding like what makes the World Championship more special than an elite event right now. Because for the most part, the field at the elite event and the World Championship is almost identical in the sense of the top guys. They're all going to be there. But back when you were playing, was it harder for more players to show up to all the events to where the World Championship was the place where you're like, this is where all the best players are going to be at?
Most definitely. The World Championships were where like all the international players and people from each coast, everybody was going to be at the World Championships. There was anybody that wanted to try. And, it wasn't like we didn't have big fields. I think in 1990, when we were in Scottsdale, there was 200 open players. in the field. And yes, there's people from Sweden, Japan, Germany. You know, it was a true world championship. And I think, you know, that led to it being more credible, is because there was people from all over the world. And more of the tour events, you didn't see that as much. Definitely back in the day, you didn't see, you know, the Finns and the Swedes and the Germans and the people like that they just didn't travel over for other events.
What was your first check?
Definitely a notch above everything else.
What was your first check for the World Championships and your first
I
win?
believe it was just over $2,000. The one in 1990 in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, $2,042 if I remember correctly.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. I think Calvin just won like 7,500 at the last event. So not too shabby, I guess.
That's my local boy too, Calvin.
Yeah.
Shout out to Calvin. Keep it up, buddy.
He's killing it, man. He's killing it on tour. Question that I did, you know, kind of poll some people too, to just kind of get an idea of what, you know, the people that have been in disc golf for way longer than I have, what are they really curious about? And one that I kept picking up, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, so please tell me if you don't. What is your current relationship with Innova? Because I don't even know. I just know that your name is on a whole bunch of discs. But besides that, like what relationship do you have with them?
We have a good relationship. I haven't been able to do my part for them lately, just because of, you know, my body hasn't been letting me. But they've kept up their end with me fairly well, so it's a good relationship. We talk every now and then, and I just wish I could do more for them. I'd like to, you know, maybe get out and do some videos for them, like Nate Sexton did with, you know, with the throwing styles and, you know, tips and things like that. I could definitely do stuff like that with them, and I wish they'd reach out to me and make that happen. I could definitely do stuff like that still. I can still throw, like I said, I can still throw. I just really can't play tournaments because of the longevity of the event and how much it makes my body break down.
I think people would love that. I would love to see videos like that for sure.
I'll watch them.
But Innova, without Innova, you know, I would still be building houses.
Oh, there you go. And talking a little bit about money, what are your thoughts now on some of these pros contracts where they're making 7 figures over, you know, a year? And last year we saw, I believe it was, you know, Ricky, Paul, and Kristen Tatar all make over $100,000 in a single season. Is that something that you're, you know, proud to kind of be able to push the sport to where it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a bit of a catalyst, you know, for the things that are happening nowadays. I won 7 straight world championships before I ever got any monetary compensation. 7.
In like sponsors and stuff?
I had disc sponsors that would get discs and plastic, but I didn't get any monetary compensation until after I won 7 world championships in a row. So I think I was the catalyst for any player getting paid any money, because no one was getting paid anything before I did that. And how long would it have been had I not done that before someone did get paid?
So it almost got to the point where it was like a breaking point where you're like, we need to start paying this guy. He's just won 7 world championships. And then from there, other people could be like, well, if you're paying Climo, you know, you need to pay me a little bit.
Right.
And then
like, I'm the one
just
battling him.
dominoed.
Yeah. Up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see where it's at. You asked me, I'm glad to see where it's at. I'm glad to see the rising tide of it all. And I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for the individuals who are receiving those contracts and whatnot. I just wish I was 20 years later, you know?
Kenny, quick question about it growing and everything. When you're, let's say, out at the grocery store, do people come up to you and recognize you and ask for autographs and stuff like is that something that happens still for you?
Oh yeah. Not all the time, but here and there, yes, I get recognized out and about and start conversations and whatnot about it. I've definitely signed some autographs. And Busch Gardens. We went to Busch Gardens one time and people recognized me. I went to get a COVID shot back in the day and someone recognized me in there. And yeah, that definitely happens for sure.
Well, good. More people need to recognize. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I'm hoping a lot of people tune into this podcast because, you know, a lot of my fans don't know anything about disc golf. They're very similar to me, of where we were Ultimate Frisbee and then we kind of just popped onto the scene. And so they probably have the same understanding as I do of like this mythical, legendary character that won 12 world championships, but don't really get to know that much about him. And so, I mean, hopefully they listen to this and kind of get to an idea of just how incredible your career was in disc golf. Because again, you were at the forefront of where the media just wasn't, like you were saying, there's like videos that you had that just don't exist anymore. The media nowadays is insane. There's so many podcasts talking about disc golf. There's so much post-production.
Every shot's videoed. You can go back to any shot in any tournament, any hole, any round. Oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah, I was watching all your world championship victories, and there was like 2 years where it was just like no video coverage, and then just moved on to the next one. I'm like, what? There's just not a single shot covered in these 2 years. So yeah, it's crazy to kind of see how nuts it is. And it's funny too, because we have a lot of people now, you know, talking about how bad the coverage is. You know, you're always going to get that, where I'm sure you're looking at it being like, dude, this is way better than what we had when I was playing at World Championships.
And sorry for doing this, but I guarantee after this, you're going to be getting lit up for interviews from the other podcasts, and they're going to be jealous. Like, I promise you that you're going to get lit up of wanting you to be on their shows and everything. And I hope you take that challenge and you go on there, because the more people who see Ken Climo and hear the story, the better disc golf is.
That's funny you say that, because I'm doing one tomorrow night as well.
Oh, there you go. Let's go. Okay, I have a few more questions. Yuli, jump in too if you have anything.
Yeah.
Thoughts on ratings? Because I don't know if you know, I'm big anti-rating guy, but am I stupid for being big anti-rating guy? Convince me why ratings are good.
I can't convince you why ratings are good. I think you're shooting a score out there. I'm not shooting a 1045. I'm shooting a 53 or a 47 or a 60 or whatever it is. Like, you're shooting a number on the course. Your rating is arbitrary.
Love that.
You like world rankings then?
World rankings are fine. Yep. I mean, why not do it like ball golf does it? They have a scoring average. Like, you average this many under per round.
Yeah, handicap.
Yeah, I mean, we'll leave it there, because I know people are probably tired of me talking about my rants on ratings.
The ratings are inflated these days as well. They're like 15 points higher than they were in my day.
It's funny too. They're deflating now though. Like they were inflating. No, I agree. They were for sure. And now, because like we just played a tournament with it was a silver event, so you had a bunch of lower rated players in the event versus Waco, Vegas, no lower rated players, right? And ratings, all of a sudden, like Calvin's winning score was like 1076, and the winning score at the Open at Austin was like 1050 something. You're gonna tell me that Calvin just played that much better? No. It's literally because you had a bunch of low rated people to make everyone look better.
That's what the ratings is all about, is the propagators.
Yeah. And so we're taking a dip now that the field has all gotten better, to where like the lowest rated player in a lot of these events is like 1,005.
Yeah.
Where in the past it was like 920, 930 guys with 1050 guys. And so all of a sudden it makes, the scores look okay.
Another thing about the ratings is you have a lot of OB on the courses these days.
Yes.
And the players that go OB a bunch make the players that don't go OB a bunch's ratings much higher.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome, players.
Yes. Okay. I already asked that question.
Too much OB out there, if you ask me.
Dang, I was literally just about to ask you, what are your thoughts on golf courses and artificial OB?
I don't mind a little bit of it here and there, but you don't need to have it on each fairway around the whole hole, both sides of every fairway. I think that's a little redundant.
Too penalizing, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. See,
I mean, you look at golf. You've got the fairway, and you've got a first cut of rough, then you've got a primary cut of rough. There's a buffer zone there, and then you've got trees. Then you've got an OB line. right? You play ball golf, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not fairway OB line unless there's a lake there, right?
So, no, you're right. But I think there is a massive disadvantage of having your ball in the rough in golf versus in the fairway in golf. And with disc golf, the fact that we can step around our lie and change trees, if you're playing, more of an open style course, trees a lot of times aren't going to be a huge deterrent for you throwing your next shot up to the green.
No, but 10-inch rough would be hard to run up in.
I agree with that. I do love courses that like Preserve, for example, they have a lot of high rough of where you don't want to be over there.
It makes it harder to throw the next shot. That's
sand too. Sand's also really tough to do it.
Sand's hard to throw out of.
Yeah, I think there's definitely different ways of doing it, but right now, if you play on some of these courses that just don't have OB, the people that can just spray and throw it far, a lot of times are going to have a huge advantage because there isn't a benefit in throwing it into the so-called fairway, right? Because it's just not as punishing being off the fairway as much.
Here's my take on it. If you make one side of the fairway OB and the other side, like it's a bailout area, the bailout area is now a much harder upshot than the side if you throw it closer to the OB. You get it close to the OB, you got an easy next shot. If you throw it way away from the OB, your shot's way harder. That's the way the courses should be designed. You've got to risk the OB line to have the easier next shot. And if you don't risk it, your shot is way tougher. And that's the way you can design like a one-sided OB course. It doesn't have to be encapsulated in OB. I saw the ones in Houston this last week, and the OB lines were painted right up to the tee pad on both sides. And then they went out around the whole hole.
Now, I will say, though, Houston, the thing that Houston did well is I thought that the design of the par fours, kind of how you mentioned, when you have par fours that are just like this, right? From the tee to the basket here, it benefits the players that just throw farther. And if you throw far and you're offline a little bit, that's fine. We had a lot of holes, though, that were like this. Right. And so now when you throw a bad shot and you're way over here, like you're talking about, versus the person that throws a good shot, now all of a sudden there's massive things. There was one hole where if you didn't get around the corner, like you had to lay up to the corner. I love holes like that to where it really benefits
the look of that course. I really like the look of that place. It was an awesome looking course. I just don't think you need to have OB down both sides of every hole, every fairway.
What do you think about the distance of the courses nowadays? Are you fine with that, or do you think there's a way to design it to where you don't have to have these massive holes, or do you like seeing the players kind of push the envelope with how far you can throw it while being accurate?
I would like seeing a mix of some tight holes, some accuracy laden holes, and some bomber holes. I think it's good to have all of it, not just one or not just the other, but a good mix of all. Left turns, right turns, straight shots, tunnel holes, water clears, water stay short of, water stay right of, water stay left of. I think it's good to have a mix.
Sounds like you could have a future in course designing as well.
I would love to play a Climo course.
Oh
that
my
would
gosh.
Be awesome.
Right?
I've designed a few courses, but I've never really had a nice canvas, to just go out and design a world-class masterpiece.
Okay, so
carte blanche.
There's a couple big benefactors in disc golf now. So if you're listening and you're looking for a course designer, that would be incredible. One story that Yuli talked about before you came on was one of the first times he played with you, how you called a violation on him when he putted, or when he had a putt, or
no, it was just on the tee.
It was off the tee. That's right.
Yeah.
Something that right now is definitely an issue with the professional scene is players are just not calling stuff on other players.
Or even when they do, that it doesn't get enforced. Nico called Ricky on a foot fault that was obviously a foot fault in Phoenix a couple of years ago. He was 3 feet behind his disc. It was on camera. Nico called it, and it never got enforced. And now Nico looks like the bad guy for calling it. I think that's ridiculous, actually. I wasn't a big caller of rules, but if I saw something that was blatantly rule breaking, I would call it.
Was that a different vibe back there though with players? Like, did they, when you would call a player out on breaking a rule, did they immediately turn to you and like you all of a sudden are now in an argument with them?
Yeah,
or was it
it would
more
create animosity and bad blood, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that we have to call it on each other. In ball golf, they call it on themselves because they have integrity, and that seems to be what's lacking out there in disc golf is people with integrity. Like if I broke a rule, I'd be like the first to go, oh yes, I broke it. I'll tell you, I broke it. Sign me up, penalized, whatever you got to do. I made the mistake. Nowadays, people don't want to own up to their mistakes. Oh man, I didn't do that. No, I was behind my line and all this. No, I think it comes down to the individual and having integrity.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely certain scenarios too where like players are just in the woods, right? And your card mates aren't in the woods right there with you. And so at that point, I'm just like, I'm hoping your foot is behind your lie. I'm hoping you're not moving trees that you shouldn't be moving. So there is still a lot of that. Same thing with like when your disc, that's a big issue that we have is when like we don't have a spotter on a hole and your disc goes out of bounds. It's just so awkward when a player will be like, well, I think it crossed here. And you're just like, no, like you're way back.
Call.
You're way back. I know, but then we definitely have an issue where players do not want to get in this weird, like you're talking about the animosity and all that.
Yeah.
You have an issue where like some players they don't want to have to deal with that throughout the round. And so they just won't ever really bring anything up, which I think is hurting the game because it's allowing people to get away with stuff.
Yeah, well, some people kind of take advantage of it as well.
Sure.
Like somebody with, a different kind of personality who kind of, pushes the envelope of being like, no, this is where I went out. And then, you'll have other people on the card, exactly like you're saying, just kind of be like, oh, I don't want any of this negative energy. And then all of a sudden and then all of a sudden they get the
that's
spot.
Fine right there. That's good. Yep.
Yeah, good.
That
Good
works. Yeah, no problem.
I was chastised a few years back at the World Championships in Pittsburgh for calling Scott Stokely on a couple of foot faults out in the field, and he posted this big thing online about it. But what he didn't post was the first 2 foot faults we called him on were up by this fence on a dogleg right par 5. Did you play the 2015 Worlds, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that par 5 at Slippery Rock, the dogleg right around the fence and went uphill with the big peak? Mm-hmm. That hole, he had thrown OB right off the tee and had to take his meter from the fence. These were the first 2 OBs that no one ever saw, no one ever talked about online, that weren't mentioned by Scott. Anyway, the first one, he missed his mini by 6 feet. We called him on it because it was 6 foot away. He was 9 feet away from the fence. He's supposed to be 3 feet away from the fence. He's 9 feet away from the fence. The second one, he's 8 feet away from the fence with his foot and then throws and puts his foot over behind his mini, moves it like 3.5 feet to make it look like it was legal. He threw, then moved his foot behind his mini. Cheating. So from that point forward, we were watching him like a hawk the rest of the round. And that's when he got called on the 2 open field ones that he posted online that didn't look like foot faults on the video. But he didn't want to post that first ones by the fence where it looked like he was cheating where he was cheating. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, no, that's something that I think we have the advantage moving forward a little bit more is having spectators. I think that makes it harder for people that are trying to cheat. And then also, obviously, as videos continue to grow and we get more cameras out there, that's another thing of where if you have a video watching you, maybe you're less likely to try to pull something fast.
This was in the semifinals. This was in the semifinals at a World Championships. There was plenty of people around watching it. Lots of people around.
Yeah, I think it's different now, though, just with how social media is. You do something, you look at Nico, for example, right? And I'll be the first to tell you, like, I've never really had that many bad interactions with Nico. I think he has done some things that have been over the line for sure. But, you get 1 or 2 clips posted out there, and then all of a sudden you have all these people just dogpiling on it. And so nowadays with how social media works, that can happen in a real hurry.
Yeah,
so,
you definitely have to be. People say they lost respect for me because they kept Scott Stokely out of the finals or whatever. Like, you lost respect for me because I play by the rules.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be the bad guy, I guess, in that situation. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think
you have more respect for the guy that was trying to cheat and moving his foot after he threw. That's the guy you have respect for.
we need to have definitely some marshals too in certain situations. We did have some out at the Open at Austin, which was nice, to where if there is like a call like that on lead card or on chase card, you can bring a marshal in to maybe kind of be the middle person a little bit to kind of calm things down. But a question I did have on you that has popped up many times is 30 seconds. Do you feel that every single shot should be 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, or should it just be more of take your time on really difficult shots? Maybe you're scrambling and you've never been in the woods over here and you're trying to find a line, you might take 45 seconds. But like when you have a 25-foot putt, we should be taking a minute. What's your thoughts on like the time, pace of play and all that?
I've never really had an issue with the 30 second. I never like called. I don't think I've ever called a 30-second rule on anybody or anything like that. But there's in the rules, it states that you have a reasonable amount of time to survey your lie. And then you have 30 seconds to approach your lie once that reasonable amount of time is up. And then you have 30 seconds once you mark it. So you actually do have more than a minute if you do it correctly. If you go ahead up there and mark it first, then your 30-second clock is started and you started that yourself.
Gotcha.
So use your time before you go up and mark to do those things and then come and mark it. Then you have your 30 seconds. And I think 30 seconds is plenty of time to throw a disc once you've marked.
Yeah. The only time I would ever think you need more time is when you are in these weird scramble modes of where
but you can walk around and look
before you mark your
before
disc.
you mark. You know, you have a reasonable amount of time to survey your area.
Okay. I like that.
And you know, distractions. There's also the distraction thing. And who's to say what distracted you? A bug flew in my ear, you know?
They actually changed that rule this year to where there's no distraction rule. Like you can't be distracted. So
so if a car comes flipping off the road into your fairway, you should just still throw.
that's what they say.
That's what they say. I think again,
I
that's
think
why
there needs to be some bit of a distraction rule for things that are out of your control. Branch falls off the tree down across the T-pad. You know, I might want to wait.
That's why I think that's why I just don't like the time limit, because by giving a time limit like that, then you have all these weird scenarios of where it's like, yeah, if a baby or a kid runs right in front of you as you're trying to throw, you're going to be like, I'm not going to throw. I just think it should be, you know, let's just keep the pace of play up, right? If you get to a group and there's 2 holes in between that group and the other group, a marshal or someone should be like, hey guys, pick it up. Yep. And then they just walk a little bit faster. They don't chit chat and they catch up. I think that's more important than being like, hey man, you took 35 seconds to putt. I'm going to have to call you on a violation.
Going forward from here on that exact subject is you've got a yellow brick road in front of you. The ball golf has already gone through all these trials and tribulations. They've been around for 400 years. What they do is they time the player if there's a gap between groups.
Yep.
And if you shouldn't get timed until you are slow on the course compared to the other groups. And once that's happened, then, okay, now you're getting timed.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's already out there. They've already done it. They've already went through all the troubles that we're going through now, the growing pains, all that. They've already done it. Just follow what they've done. They've got it right.
So you mentioned that you would love to do some videos in the future with Innova. You're hoping that they reach out. Any interest in doing videos with other YouTube creators potentially in the future?
I don't know. I'd have to, you know, have an offer come my way.
If the compensation was correct, you would be interested in it potentially.
Depending on what, you know, what it all entailed. Yes.
Okay.
You know,
okay. Sure. I'll talk to my people.
I wouldn't mind doing like a one-day thing somewhere, you know, just like a specialty thing that's not a PDJ tournament, just some kind of one-day, one-round thing. I could definitely show up for something like that too.
That'd be sick.
I feel like there'd be potential for.
Crossing.
Oh yeah. The skins match. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could be a part of something like that because I can play one round.
No, exactly. I was gonna say. I mean, even like a YouTube channel for yourself. I mean, you would have a lot of people watching that if you found somebody, let's just say, to film, you know, around a week or something, and they post it to your own YouTube channel. That might be something that a lot of people would want to watch.
I probably would be. I just, like I said, I'm not tech savvy. I've never really got into that end of it. I'm just kind of more old school
Sure.
in that regard. I'm not much of a social media-ist as it is.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our final question. Thank you so much for staying with us as long as you have. This is the fan favorite question whenever we have a guest on. Biggest pet peeves. Now, this can range from anything from what competitors have done, what fans have done, what you have seen with your buddies playing. We're just always, we love talking about things that just, just get under our skin playing disc golf. And I'll start with one, and then you'll have the floor just to kind of give you, unless Yuli, you have a good one to go with.
No, go ahead.
I'll start with one, and that is when, because this literally just happened with two of my buddies. They posted a YouTube video, and they're talking about this disc flight characteristics, right? The flight characteristics of this disc make no sense. So it's when someone just is trying to hammer home that the flight characteristics of this disc is way different than all these other discs. And then you watch them throw it and you're like, no, that disc has just as much glide. Like that disc, it's not like that disc has zero glide. It has just as much glide. That's a pet peeve of mine, is when someone just starts trying to talk to me the numbers and not actually how the disc flies.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on all the number stuff either. You throw the disc, if it does what it does, and you use it for what it does. Whatever it does, use it for that, But today's game, my biggest pet peeve is cameramen getting in the way of shots.
It's pretty
Not
good
so
one.
much the eagle spike on top of the head. That guy was actually in a good position. Eagle went over the top, and that was just a misfortune. But I'm talking about more like the one that happened in Vegas, where the guy was standing in the bunker, near the bunker, at the edge of the bunker and in the middle of the fairway, and someone's drive was progressing down the fairway, hit him, and went into the bunker. Why are the cameramen affecting disc golf shots and scores? Why are they on the green? Why are they getting behind, like straight behind you, 180? They should be off to the side. They shouldn't be in your view when you're putting. There's a lot of things I don't like about what the cameramen are doing out there right now. They're affecting play. They're scrambling around and getting 180 degrees behind the player, trying to get the shot coming in when they should be 90 degrees off to the side or behind the player. I don't like that the cameraman, it's more important that the cameraman be there than that's more important than the person throwing the shot.
I was supposed to tweet Yuli every time a cameraman got hit with a disc. I haven't done that, but I'm telling you right now, I have like 4 or 5 tweets I'm supposed to tweet Yuli. It happened. It's happened now multiple
Did it happen
times.
again this last weekend?
Garrett Gerthy hole 2.
Wow.
Through, and it hit the cameraman's tripod or whatever, and probably kept him in bounds. Trust me, people are
it's
tweeting.
Going to go both ways. There's going to be good and bad from it,
for sure. But people are tweeting me now every time it happens.
They should be farther away from the action.
I'm supposed to be tweeting you. People are tweeting me, being like, "Brody, you need to tweet Yuli because another cameraman just got hit." And I'm just like, "It's going to happen every tournament. It's going to happen every time."
Yeah, if you got them that close to the action, it's going to happen. You got to keep them a little farther away from the action or behind the action.
Check.
Yeah, it's tough. Anything else stand out to you as pet peeves?
Pet peeves.
Like for example, one of my pet peeves, Kenny, is like when you put up a nice putt from like 60 feet, but you miss it a bit right, and then people are like, "Nice putt," and I'm like, "I missed." That's like a nice little like playing pet peeve. You got anything like that?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, sometimes you can have a nice bid and it doesn't go in. Good efforts don't always go in.
Or what about when somebody nices your shot?
That's never been a pet peeve of mine.
Right.
But I hear what you're saying there. They say nice halfway through the flight, and wham, it hits the invisible limb straight to the ground. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's just funny, coincidental stuff, because they're actually being genuine, saying,
oh,
it was a
absolutely,
nice shot.
Absolutely, yeah.
If there's no genuineness there, then I might have an issue with it. But usually people are pretty genuine when they say nice.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea who started the disc charger?
No, that's beyond me. I still don't understand it at all.
That's one thing that I said I liked a lot. I don't know if I actually do or not, but it definitely got the people going when I said I liked the disc chargers a lot.
I'm indifferent to it.
I said I was Yeah, I said I was anti-vandalism when like people put stickers and stuff like that over the basket or like sign the basket. But then I was like, I'm all about dischargers, and people are like, "What?"
But that's also vandalism.
No, I know. That's why I was contradicting myself when I said that.
Right.
But yeah.
Writing your name on the basket because you aced it. Yeah, I don't think that's right.
Or people sitting in the basket after they ace it for like a picture, and then it's like bent. It's like, all right, man.
If you're not hurting it, I don't think there's any problem with that.
I think it should be a weight limit. You know, weight limit to everything.
If you're not leaving a mark and you're not bending anything, it's okay, I think.
Yeah. Yuli, you got anything else?
Yeah, my question I ask all our guests: who are disc golfers? And this one, I guess we'll do a throwback because you're not playing in the competition nowadays. But back in the day, let's say span from 2000 to, let's say, 2009 when you were playing a bunch. What person would you look at their game and be like, all right, that's nice. Like I love that dude's game.
I mean, Barry Schultz is definitely one name that comes to mind when it comes to that time frame. Ron Russell, he had a very strong game. He's, threw it straight and accurate and putted the lights out of it. You know, when you're playing disc golf, a lot of people can throw the shots, you know, progress down the fairway. It's the putting that really wins you the championships most of the time.
Yeah.
Being able to knock them down when you need to knock them down. And that to me is the pressure stuff. Obviously there's some pressure drives and, you know, tight holes and stuff like that. You got to kind of same thing. You got to have that good pressure head to make those shots. And that's kind of what I enjoy about other players' abilities, you know, watching them being able to do that kind of stuff. And Barry and Ron in that time period were top, you know, and Feldberg, I'd say was creeping in there too in that time period.
Love that.
Steve Rico has always been a good player in that regard too. And he's been there a little bit longer than those guys, you know, in the grand scheme of things.
I've gotten slapped up once or twice by Rico. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome. I know everyone listening at home definitely appreciates not just you coming on this podcast, but everything that you have done for disc golf. And I'm very excited to see kind of the future of what you're going to do with the commentary this year at USCGC. I can't wait to hear that, and anything else moving forward. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. It was nice meeting you in a online situation. I get to meet you face to face at the USCGC this year if you're going to be there.
If I qualify, I missed a 20-footer, Kenny, on hole 17. I had a 20-footer on hole 17 last week.
It should get a little easier to qualify as the year goes on.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, you would think.
Get in there.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, hopefully I get to talk to you in person, and it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
maybe we can play a practice round together.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
I'll definitely bring my discs. I might not play in the tournament, but we'll see though. I've been feeling better. Like I said, I played the round the other day at the Canyon course in Brooksville, and I didn't hurt that much the next day.
Icy Hot it does incredible things as well.
No Icy Hot involved.
All right.
I'll tell you what, if Kenny played the first round of the USDGC, the crowd would be massive. Oh my gosh.
It would be massive. Yeah, it'd be incredible. Be awesome.
I could definitely play the first round. That's something I could do. But if they want me to be commentating, it would have to be an earlier round for sure.
Oh, true.
But I might just try and do that. I did that in 2019. I played the first round, except I didn't putt out on the last hole because I didn't want them to stick me in the groups because I knew I wasn't playing the whole thing because my body wasn't there. But this year,
but what happens when you shoot a 10 under? First round,
great.
And then all of a sudden your lead card.
Pump myself full of anti-inflammatories and try and go out the next day.
Love it.
All right, so I guess everyone stay tuned for USDGC. It's going to be electric. It's going to be incredible.
It is the 25th anniversary this year, so
it's
definitely something special going on there, and I want to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks again, and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Nice meeting you, Yuli.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Good chatting, buddy.
Yeah, man.